Hello and welcome to the 10th annual Brand X Reviews Halloween special. This one marks the end of this part of the series where we've been talking about the Alien and Predator movies. Specifically for this one, we're going to be talking about the 2012 film Prometheus, which was then followed by the 2017 film Alien Covenant, both directed by Ridley Scott and serving as a bit of a prequel to that original Alien film from 1979. We're going to talk about that now with my co-review at the core.
Right, so yesterday we were talking about Alien vs Predator 1 and 2. Before that we were talking about the Predator standalone movies. Before that we were talking about the Alien quadrilogy. Those are the ones with Ripley. So if you've missed those, go back and check them out. Today we're finishing this kind of part of the Halloween season for this year with something else coming tomorrow. But tonight we're finishing off this little group of videos where we're talking about this franchise. We're going to talk about Prometheus from 2012 and Alien Covenant from 2017. So, I think, again, me and you were kind of in agreement on this. Maybe I kind of appreciate Prometheus a little bit more than you do, but I can totally see where you're coming from. It just kind of resonates with me a little bit more than it does with you. But other than that, I think we generally agree.
I agree it's better than Covenant is Prometheus, but like I say, that's not necessarily saying too much.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I got happy memories of going to see this at the cinema, and it was as a cinema movie, it was very good. It was very kind of big and grand visuals and stuff. I think I even remember, I did go see this in 3D, and I seem to remember it being one of the better 3D movies in the cinema. But nevertheless, I did come out disappointed, but the film kind of grew on me a little bit over time. So, history of this movie anyway is, I remember it was a few years, it was about 2010, a couple of years before the film actually came out. It was announced that we were getting an Alien prequel, but it was kind of not about aliens. It was about the space jockey. That was the way it was kind of spoken about, and that Ridley Scott was returning to this franchise for the first time since that original 1979 movie Alien, which was a welcome concept that he was doing that, because he was widely held as being, quite, a big contribution to this franchise. Everything that he did with that first movie, setting it up. Laying the groundwork, and I think H.R. Giger did do some of the designs for Prometheus as well. It was taken from some of his work anyway, and obviously they were using directly some of the things he saw in that first Alien film, like the spaceship that the space jockey has. Now, it's not the same spaceship, it's not the same planet. Obviously, that was something when the trailers came out, it kind of gave you that impression that they were going back to that ship from Alien, and that planet, LV-426. It's not actually the case. It's a nearby planet. It's one of the ones that's designated a similar number. It's LV-420, 432. I can't remember what it was now, the number of it, but it was in that area of space anyway. And it kind of covers the space jockeys and implies that they seeded life on Earth and that we evolved from them. And it brings in this new kind of idea in this franchise, not to do with face huggers and so on, but like a pathogen, similar to the black goo that you used to have in the X-Files series and movies. Very similar to that, wasn't it, in a lot of ways? There is a definite Topher reference there, but we'll save that for later on. That was the different kind of goo. So this one focuses a lot on the space jockey, but it also focuses a lot more on the androids that were designed by the Wayland Corporation. And pretty good performance from Michael Fassbender as David, the android. Interesting direction. Sorry, I'm talking quite a bit. Have you want to jump in on that?
No, keep talking about the David character and his interesting direction.
Yeah.
Well, they did steal a move from Buff and Topher, where he sticks his finger in the goo and then sticks it in Buffs drink.
Yeah, there was that that character in the film. The actor, he looks a lot like Tom Hardy. A lot of people swear blind that Tom Hardy's in the film Prometheus. He does look a lot like him, to be fair. Well, when he was younger, anyway. But yeah, there's pretty good actors.
Tom Hardy was busy being in Game of Thrones.
That's true. But there's some pretty good actors in this film, like stuff you'll have seen in other things, but maybe not remember like what you've seen them in or the actor's name necessarily. But there's some pretty good ones in there. Obviously, you've got like some big names like Charlize Theron and Guy Pearce and Idris Elba were in that as well. All pretty good. But the concept is anyway, it's set about 30 years before the first Alien movie, and some archaeologists found some indication that there's an alien species and that they've left various markers throughout history in different locations, depicting exactly where they are in the universe. So Peter Wayland, played by Guy Pearce, he was an old man on his deathbed, dying of old age, sends this ship, the Prometheus, to go out there and check it out, basically. Now, I don't know if you remember, but there were a lot of like online videos that supported this movie as well. So they weren't like part of the film; they would just be on like YouTube. There's like a TED talk, well, fake TED talk with Peter Wayland, played by Guy Pearce. I think he's supposed to be around 40, 50 years old at this point. It was set around about now, actually, from memory, the early 2020s. So obviously in the film, he's a very, very old man, but it kind of sets his character up. Something that they did with Alien Covenant as well. There was some stuff there that were like internet videos that were supposedly like part of the movie that you don't see in the movie. Interesting thing to do. But yeah, some pretty good concepts. They go out there and they find the pyramid, similar to an Alien versus Predator, actually, we were talking about yesterday. And inside the pyramid, there's this black oil, and it infects you. You kind of give birth or whatever to some like new sort of creature, unlike anything that we've seen in the franchise. Stuff starts to go down. It's quite effective and quite inventive, some of the stuff that they do, and it's quite creepy. Not as good as the stuff that we saw in the original Alien movie, but it definitely feels like it is part of that world. I think they did a good enough job there. Just didn't live up to what it could have been, you know, what we imagined.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't hate this film, and it doesn't take away from stuff like Covenant does, which we can get to when we get to Covenant. But yeah, like I say, it's one of those things like, yes, we've got like the original director coming back to revisit his like vision. It's like, I kind of wishing he hadn't done now, to be honest, dude. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, he kind of fucked this up. I wish he'd left it alone.
Yeah, because thing is, with Ridley Scott, he did make a point that one of the things he said about this movie, I think the way he worded it was that the alien character, well, a xenomorph that's been cooked, it's been done, to keep bringing it back would overdo it. And
it's like that's all well and good, dude, but maybe like if that's your opinion, don't make an alien film.
Yeah, sometimes bringing back the original people isn't a good idea. We saw this with the 2018 Predator movie that Shane Black directed. It's like, it seems like a good idea getting the original person back. It brings back the original magic, but a lot of the time that's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean, it was that with the fucking prequel trilogy for fucking Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was like that, like, yes, we finally got, the X-Files back, and it's like, do you maybe think you could have given it to different people who are slightly less fucking idiotic? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because with the X-Files, Chris Carter was like massively involved with when they brought it back a few years ago, and it wasn't as great as we'd hoped. So yeah, bringing back the original person isn't always a good idea. So yeah, some good examples there. But yeah, so obviously stuff happens there. The second film is set 10 years later, but it's interesting with the second movie because something happened between Prometheus in 2012 and Alien Covenant in 2017, because I remember when I started Brand X Reviews, it was like 2013, so it was that period between Prometheus and Covenant. I think we were talking about it at the time, that there were a lot of stories coming out about what the next Alien film was going to be. Was it going to be a follow-up to Prometheus, or was it going to be something else? And it was pretty much announced in early 2015, so 3 years after Prometheus, that Neil Blomkamp was working on an Alien sequel, as in Alien 5, but not even Alien 5. It was effectively going to retcon Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. It was going to be a direct sequel to Aliens, and it was going to bring back the Hicks character, the Ripley character. There's loads of artwork that was drawn up. The actors were saying, yes, we're on board. So it wasn't just like a concept. I mean, I saw like props being designed. Neil Blomkamp was like putting stuff out on social media, like with the pulse rifles and stuff, like props were being built. But something happened, unfortunately. Like I said, this was announced in early 2015, and then that year, Neil Blomkamp released the film Chappie, and it didn't do very well, like at all. I don't think anybody liked it, and it didn't make a lot of money as much as they'd hoped. So, because up to that point, Neil Blomkamp had a pretty good reputation. He'd done, was it District 9 or whatever, and Elysium, and they were quite successful. So his reputation was there. Ridley Scott, on the other hand, had done a few duds. He'd done Exodus, Gods and Kings. So Neil Blomkamp was up there. Ridley Scott was down there. But then Neil Blomkamp released Chappie, so his reputation went down there. And Ridley Scott directed The Martian, which was very successful and very good, and his reputation went up there. So I think it was off the back of Chappie failing and The Martian being a big success that the studios went with Ridley Scott for the next Alien film. That Alien 5 or alternate Alien 3 that we would have got just died, and Ridley Scott got to take the reins and follow up after Prometheus, and he did Alien Covenant, and it wasn't great.
No, I mean, it was actively taken away from some of the mystique of the earlier films. We're like, yep, aliens, not this ancient horror from the dawn of time. Like, no, just something that the android cooked up in his fucking shed.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, luckily it's a little bit ambiguous, because you could say that what David did was kind of tinker with existing sort of biological technology and create his own xenomorphs, even though they already existed. But that ain't what they were going with. Like you said, the direction that you're implying there is what they were trying to get at. Now, from what I've heard, if they do a third film, that is the direction they're going to go in. They're going to say that alien that you saw in Alien wasn't an alien. It was created by androids, which are created by humans. And that massively takes away. I mean, it undermines the fact that in the first Alien film, there's that space jockey that's been there for so long, it's fossilized and grown out of the chair. That's how they describe it in that film. Prometheus and Alien Covenant kind of like redesign that concept. So it's like a smaller humanoid inside like a spacesuit.
It's basically a human, except it's taller and it's like fucking albino. It's like, that's not very interesting.
Yeah, because even if you watch that original Alien, because I just watched that recently with somebody else that hadn't seen it, and I was kind of like describing it while you watch it, because you're like, what am I looking at here? And it's like, you can't tell where the creature in that chair ends and the chair begins, and like, how does it move? Because it's got this like elephant trunk that kind of like goes into like a rib cage, and it's like, what did that thing look like when it was alive? And how did it get in the chair? Does it live in the chair? Is its existence to be this thing in the chair? It's very alien. It's
well,
not.
like I say, I remember there's like a trilogy of Alien novels which were kind of based on. I think originally they were actually supposed to be like a continuation to Aliens, because there's basically like a scarred soldier and like this little girl who's kind of grown up after like her family got wiped out by xenomorphs. So it's basically like Hicks and Newt, but they kind of
renamed them.
Yeah, they renamed them and stuff.
Yeah.
And in that, they go to like the aliens' home world, like the place where this like plague obviously started, or at least they think it started. And at one point, they do actually run into like a space jockey,
And it's
and they
psychic.
describe it as more some kind of like Lovecraftian, kind of like unknowable, weird psychic thing in this like floating throne and all this
Yeah,
kind
it
of shit.
floats. Yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
And it's like that is way more interesting than it's just a tall dude in a spacesuit.
Yeah, I've seen that. So yeah,
I'm not saying that like book is perfect or the description is perfect. It's like, but
but it's
that
better.
just concept is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot better. It's kind of what you imagine, but yeah, I think they took away from it, and the plan was to go further into the stuff with androids. Alien Covenant, I see what they did with the ending of it, where it's a bit more nihilistic. The survivor doesn't really survive it. They're kind of in a bit of a state at the end of that movie. And the android has done a very obvious like switch in that movie as well. That you can kind of see coming a
and
mile
like
away.
the weird flirtation between like you gotta finger it and then blow. It's like, what the fuck are we looking at here?
Yeah. If anyone's not seen the film, they're not going to know what we're talking about. We're assuming that everybody's seen the film that's watching this. We're kind of reminiscing with this video. We're not.
It's like you just probably like hearing what I'm saying and assuming like, cause just making some horrible tofu joke. No, that's pretty much how it happens in the film.
Yeah. So there's two androids, both played by Michael Fassbender, and one's teaching the other how to play like a flute or like it's almost like a child's recorder at school. It's like a very primitive flute, and he's telling him, "You blow into the thing, and I'll like do that." And he says, "You blow, and
I'll
I'll do
do
the
the
fingering."
fingering.
There were a lot of sniggers in that cinema when I watched that when that was said. Awkward.
Yeah, it's like it was funny, but what the fuck are we watching?
And they take the character, is it Shaw from the first film played by Noomi Rapace, like best
Yeah.
character in the movies. Well, the main actually forget that actually the Idris Elba character is probably the best one.
I
Just
mean,
because it's
the
Idris
main
Elba.
character, like she's not awful, but she's not brilliant either.
Yeah, she's a bit gullible, but they kill her off. It's just like, what? That's like crap, like what the
Yeah, like
hell?
the only continuation we really get to all the open like stuff left at the end of Prometheus is like web, not like web videos they released and stuff. And it's like,
And that was
sure, you can
better.
track these like shorts down and stuff, but I think I can't remember which reviewer summed it up this way, but I think it was to do with something like Sunshine or something like that. You know, the one where they're going to like fix the sun that's going
Yeah, very
off.
good film. Love that
And
film.
it's like, look, I know you've got all this extra like context and stuff released in other media, but I don't want to do my fucking homework to follow your film.
Yeah.
Another one like that was the original fucking Star Trek reboot. It's like I like that film, but there's a lot of stuff that's like in alternate things like comic books and stuff, and it's like, look, I don't have to do my homework to enjoy your film. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch your film, and if your film doesn't fucking carry it through, then fuck you. I'm not looking at other sources.
And again, I'll mention in AVP2 where they like the soldier walks past, like clearly walks past the alien. He must have seen it, and it still takes him by surprise. Some dumb stuff in this, like the bit where the spaceship that's like basically like a giant wheel is like crashing and sort of rolling, and they're sort of running long ways, literally run sideways, you'll be out of its path. And then there's like the bit where the two people, where they're in the pyramid and they get scared and kind of like go off on their own and they end up making it worse themselves because they get stuck, whereas everybody else actually escapes. And there's the like alien thing that's like hissing, and they're like going up to it, going, "Oh my god, it's so beautiful." It's like,
Yeah, like bear in mind, one of these was piss scared at the very sight of a dead, very human-looking alien. But then when seeing this horrible hissing penis snake, vagina monster, he's like, "Ooh, it's being
get
friendly."
balls as well.
Ooh, it's like, no.
I think it had balls as well, a bit as well as a penis and a vagina.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like
so
just ask Buff. He'll tell you if it's like standing up and hissing at you, you don't touch it. That never
they
ends well.
learned that from the turf for that one time. But
Yes.
It was like Spoonie, I remember at the time when he did a review of this, he was saying that if any creature is like at you like that, that's universal like language for get the hell out of here, I'm going to rip your face off. You don't go up to it, and which is what happens, you know, it like kills them, you know. So.
Plus, these people managed to get lost despite having a fucking map.
Yeah. One good thing I'll say about it as well, there's a few good things about Prometheus, like visuals and stuff, but at least they went with the practical effects more with certain like bits, because they did do some CGI stuff, and if you watch it, it looks awful. Doing the practical effect that they stuck with was definitely a good call. But
yeah, and I just find some of the dumb human choices like a bit more jarring, because he did such a good job with the original film Alien of making like these very believable space truckers. Like, what they're doing is pretty sensible each step of the way. Like, you can get Ripley's like, you know, mindset of like, we can't open the door, like, you know, regulations say like this could be letting all kinds of stuff in. But you can also get the others saying like, look, we can't worry about regulations. This guy is dying. We need to help him now.
Yeah. Yeah, so little things like that. We'll cut it short anyway, but one thing I was going to say, obviously, Covenant, there's a noticeable shift with like the budget as well, and the CGI in it is like pretty terrible at sometimes. Like Alien Resurrection from '97, bad CGI. At least in '97, it was good for the time. By 2017, 2017, some of the stuff that you see with the Alien where it's CGI just looks terrible. So. Yeah, anyway, a bit negative to end on a franchise that we love, but unfortunately, the more recent movies, same with Predator as well, that 2018 movie was kind of a bad note to end on. So whenever I rewatch these films, I tend to like leave out some of the kind of crappy ones. So yeah, so we'll leave it there if that's all right with you.
Yes.
Right, so we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about something that's just going to drop at the time. It's not Alien or Predator related. It's something a bit more different, but it is in keeping with Halloween, because tomorrow, when you're watching this, it will be Halloween. So, yeah, we'll just end it there and say you can like the video, subscribe to the channel. But for now, we'll leave there and say thank you very much for watching.
So that's the end of that part of the series, but it's not the end completely. Tomorrow is Halloween and we have one more video for you. I might as well tell you now, we're going to talk about the John Carpenter movie filmography in terms of the ones that he's directed. So myself and my co-reviewer The Court one last time for this year for Halloween. We're going to do another video and we're going to get into our thoughts on the entire directorial history of John Carpenter, the great filmmaker that's given us such classics as Halloween, Escape from LA, The Fog, They Live, Big Trouble in Little China. The list goes on, and we are going to cover it completely.